I and many others had a love-hate relationship with Pokemon Sword and Shield. It was disappointing on many counts, but one aspect everyone seemed to agree on was that the wild area was fucking awesome. Never before had a Pokemon game contained such an expanse, a cornucopia of potential Pokemon partners. You could walk in any direction, control the camera with the right analog stick, almost like Pokemon was evolving into a real video game, but it was just one area, a tease, a mirage. Most of the rest was standard Pokemon fare, hallways containing trainers, a predetermined few wild creatures. So this led me and probably many others to collectively wonder, what if they made a Pokemon game that was all wild area? What if they made the whole game like this? Fast forward to November 18th, 2022, and Pokemon Violet is the whole game like this. I spent all of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday doing nothing except playing this game. I finished the main story and it's fantastic. The greatest Pokemon game released in at least 15 years, 1 month, and 5 days by my count. And it starts out fast, a blazing tutorial so subtle, you'll hardly even notice it's there. In less than an hour, you'll have your dumb-looking motorcycle monster, and you're left to explore the entire game world freely. The joy of having access to so many Pokemon as soon as the game begins is unmatched. The wonder of seeing a brand new design for the first time, creatures you never knew you wanted, of seeing old standbys and favorites returning. It never wears off. You're being bombarded with this never-ending line of different Pokemon. Never has it been more fun to just wander around and see which faces you'll find. And as the game goes on, that feeling never fades. From start to finish, this remains true. It is more fun to explore here than it ever has been. The wild area and Legends Arceus almost managed to pull the same effect off, but when you strip down Arceus, you're left with a game about checking off boxes from a honey-do list. Defeat 40 Crogunks. Use Ember with Cyndaquil 15 times. Use an Agile-style move with Duat 10 times. No thank you. I'd rather drown. I am a loser. I play every Pokemon game. Legends Arceus was the first one in a long time that I did not finish. That game bored me to tears. The people who love Legends Arceus are circus clowns who love playing the same game for 5,000 hours, breeding a perfect ID living dex. That game is for sickos, freaks. But Pokemon Violet, now that's a game for posers like me. Is the open world fun? Yeah. And I mean that in the most literal sense. It's fun to move around. This stupid motorcycle Pokemon is a fucking blast. It breaks this game wide open. You're able to bend the rules and explore in ways that feel illegal. I'm expecting Officer Jenny to bust through my window and unleash unspeakable horrors upon me. I expect to get canceled on Twitter after what I'm getting away with on top of this thing. When you first get it, his movement is so unnatural, like it doesn't belong in this world. He feels like an in-game cheat code, like pressing L to levitate in Ocarina of Time. And that's just the base form. When you gain extra abilities, such as gosh dang wings, you can glide around, forget about it. This was love at first flight. Pokemon Violet made me feel like a video game pervert. You're not supposed to be up this high. You're not supposed to be able to drive on top of the Pokemon Center. You aren't supposed to fight the level 40 Ice Gym third. Playing Pokemon Violet feels like producing an episode of Shez's Boundary Break. It's gross, it's weird, and I love it. You were able to do any of the main 18 objectives in any order you please. Yes, you heard me. I've heard people arguing the opposite. I hear your cries. But they didn't scale the levels, meaning that you still need to do the gyms in the same order, or at least close to it. To which I'll reply, shut the hell up and live a little. You want to know what's more fun than a game which scales depending on how many gym badges you have? Pulling out some bullshit win when you're 20 levels lower than the game expects you to be. Using your superior human brain to outwit this dipshit AI. To ram your head against an obstacle to game plan for one specific fight so hard that you have it down packed, move for move, planned out ahead of time. It feels dirty. Like I've got 2 Grimers giving me a puff massage. Officer Jenny, come here. Fucking arrest this man because he's using chip damage from Salt Cure to destroy these Titan Pokemon way before he should be able to. Throw him in Poke Jail. He just raided the hardest Team Starbase before he got his 6th gym badge. You can't do that. That's illegal. But much like rolling around, not giving a fuck about level geometry, gliding through cities with this unnatural looking ass motorcycle Pokemon, it is much more fun to do things out of order than in order. It is much more fun to color outside of the lines. And the phenomenon works both ways too. When you're over the hump, after you've pushed your proverbial boulder up the mountain, over the top, Pokemon Violet becomes a low-tier god simulator, trouncing bosses who may have posed a threat 20 hours ago in one gosh danged hit. It's so satisfying strolling into a gym battle, only to leave the gym leader crying and alone, smashing their faces in so hard that they're never gonna want to look at a Pokemon ever again. Jenny, come arrest me. I'm a murderer. I'm out here ending careers. It is so much fun playing a Pokemon game out of order that it ought to be illegal. But in Pokemon Violet, it isn't. And it's awesome. Now, there is something to be said about a perfectly paced game that's always challenging, but not too challenging, mind you, to find that sweet spot in between frustrating and brain dead. But Pokemon isn't that series. And it never really was that series. If you are a dumb little kid, sometimes the games posed a threat, but if you've ever dabbled in Showdown, or even simply learned how to properly buff your party, or if you're a fucking loser who revives their own Pokemon mid-battle, a disgusting act that Officer Jenny actually should throw people who do that in jail. Past games for the most part have been a fucking joke, but with Violet, you make your own challenge. Go ahead, ram your head against the most insurmountable obstacles the game has from the start. Do it. Ride your bike up a hill, then enjoy your relaxing coast down to freedom. It feels good picking fights you have no business winning. And on the same side of the coin, it feels good one-shotting a big scary bird monster boss that you're meant to struggle on. I will take unscaled, uneven difficulty where you alternate between struggling mightily and imposing your will over a consistently planned out, scaled, quote-unquote balanced, yet piss-easy experience every day of the week. 10 out of 10 times. Balance is boring. Live on the edge, color outside the lines. Now, the 10-story Don fan in the room does need to be addressed. Not the metal one. Because yeah, you know what that's all about? Have you beat the game yet? Do you know? It's awesome, isn't it? Anyway, most discourse surrounding this game has been about its poor performance and technical issues, and I'd be remiss if I didn't weigh in on these. It's not exactly smooth by any means, but it's not as bad as many have led others to believe. You can go on r/gaming, or on Twitter, or on Discord, or wherever, watch a bunch of selected clips that portray this game in its worst possible light, laugh or cry or bitch or moan that, fucking Game Freak, we need new Pokemon developers. They don't know how to make video games. And if you haven't bought the game and all you've seen are these glitches going around social media, you'll get that impression. I'm pleased to report that the game holds together much better than you might expect if this is all you've seen. If that's all you've heard, is that it's this fucking mess. At the end of the day, it's 2022. Video games, especially major AAA ones like this, have so much footage released ahead of time, have so much coverage by both nobodies like me and by professional gaming outlets, that it's almost impossible to not know what you're getting ahead of time. I've been using footage that I captured directly from the game this whole time. It's true, the frame rate dips, dives, dinks, and dunks. When it rains, the universe around you questions its own existence. If you are personally on the fence, then the best thing you can do is inform yourself and make a decision. These technical issues either bother you or they don't. I personally could care less. This isn't an action game, and I can live with my turn-based RPGs not being particularly smooth. The bottom line is, are you okay with playing a game that looks like this? Because what you see is what you get. People attempting to tell you that this is an unfit to ship buggy mess that freezes up every other minute and contains game-breaking bugs and glitches whenever you attempt to do anything, that's simply not true. Sure, it's a crusty, skunky, less than polished game, but it works. In fact, it reminds me of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Anyone watching play that? Did that game perform well enough for you? Because Violet is about on the same level of crunginess. Now, I will say that one time the game did soft lock on me, and I'm not going to make excuses for this. Your game should never do that. This worm is supposed to break these rocks and go through this tunnel, but he just kind of stood there swaying back and forth in an infinite loop. This sucks. This is inexcusable. This should never happen in a finished game. But it only happened once, and the autosave is so generous that I didn't lose any progress. And it worked fine other than that. So in the end, it didn't exactly move the needle in my opinion. Pokemon X and Y introduced Mega Evolutions, and they were pretty cool. At least I thought so. Unfortunately, Game Freak has been chasing that high ever since. Z-moves, Dynamaxing, and now Terastallizing have all been varying degrees of fucking terrible. Fortunately, Terastallizing is the least intrusive and most easily ignored of the bunch. Don't want to learn how all this shit works? Well, unless you're playing online, you'll be just fine never interacting or engaging with it at all. Though I will say I almost sort of like it because it ties into the plot. Yeah, I know, plot in a Pokemon game. It ties into the plot better than any of those past tacked on mechanics ever did. And let's talk about that. Pokemon plots have always been at their best when it's focusing on you, the player character, becoming the greatest Pokemon battler in all the land. It is a wish fulfillment fantasy about you being the greatest, most talented at something, in a world revolving around that specific thing. You are the unquestioned best at the most popular thing in the world. This happened to be Sword and Shield's strongest attribute. It was the best Pokemon game about telling this particular story. Pokemon plots are at its worst when there is a globe-spanning conspiracy, or when it's up to one little kid to save the world from some asshole who didn't think about their evil doomsday master plan for more than 13 seconds. The more convoluted bullshit they added, the worse off a Pokemon's game plot becomes. I've been saying this for years. Go back and check the tape. Now here comes Pokemon Generation 9 making me look like a fucking fool. Because it is by far the least bad kid saving the world plot outside of the Mystery Dungeon games. There are legitimate touching moments. Elements are set up ahead of time, early, and have satisfying payoffs. And for a Pokemon game, I can't ask for much more than that. I actually care about the story enough in this game to not want to spoil it here. And that's something I cannot look you in the eye and say about a single other game in the mainline Pokemon series. Yes, including Black and White. Pokemon Violet is not a perfect video game. It is not my game of the year, but I like it a hell of a lot more than anything else the series has given me lately. Again, I play every Pokemon game, remakes included, as soon as they come out. Legends Arceus was the first one I didn't finish ever, and it kind of bummed me out. My excitement for Pokemon was at an all-time low. I didn't really care about Generation 9 at all. It felt way too early. Like they're already making another one? There's no way it can be good. Well, here it is, and it is. I was ready to hate, but Violet won me over. Don't let viral Twitter videos, don't let the front page of our gaming, don't let some guy who needs a haircut deter you. This is a good one for fans. It's a good one for people who only play Pokemon once every 5 years. It's a good one for people who play Pokemon once every 20 years. It's a good one for first-timers. It's a good one for third-timers. It's just a real good Pokemon game. Big shout out to my patrons and a bigger shout out to William Robert Lee. That's all I got. Never trust anyone who needs a haircut. Goodbye.